Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Herold here on Badlands Media. I am your host, John Herold, and got plenty to discuss today, I think. Interesting. I'm feeling a little better, a little more recovered. I'm still a little tired. I had to get up super early to get my kids off to school today, so I'm trying to get back into the swing of things with that. But my brain, I think, was working a little closer to my personal standard for myself. But yeah, we'll buzz through a bunch of stuff here. How's the chat doing? Got a good crew in here already. I see Ash in the chat. Supposed to be a packed day, says Bravest. Wahlberg forged lurking while working. We even got Red Pill 78 wife in the chat. What is up? I think I jinxed them at Gart on one of the live streams. I was like, man, you guys had such an easy, awesome trip here. Normally you guys have horror stories all the time. Like, what a weird change for you. And then their trip home was a freaking nightmare. I'm sure Zach talked about it on a show. Yeah, got a good crowd in here. So real quick, let's start things off with the sponsor of today's show, and that is Scales Gear. Very excited to have these guys on board. It's actually the shirt I'm wearing. I'll show you here in a second. Wear your freedom proudly and celebrate America in style with the Scales Freedom Collection. Scales offers a line of long sleeve performance shirts, butter soft tees, and hats with ocean inspired patriotic prints. Every piece is designed to keep you cool, protected, and proud to be an American. Shop now at badlandsmedia.tv/scales and enter the code BADLANDS at checkout for 20% off your next purchase. Yeah, they sent me a box of stuff. I'm actually, like I said, I'm wearing one of the shirts right now, the Gulf of America one. It's awesome. It's got a big thing on the back too. I'm a t-shirt snob. Those who know me know that I typically wear just the one regular t-shirt. It's blank. It's Travis Matthews. I have it in a million different colors because it's the only one that fits me right. These shirts, they fit me right. I like these things. So, did I see somebody say they went swimming in the Gulf of America on Saturday? That is awesome. I wish I could go swimming in the Gulf of America. But yeah, they sent me a bunch of hats. The Gulf of America logo is just great. Sarge Sparky is not impressed with my talking. Blah, 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 he says. Well, there's been no update on the Doge website. That's kind of expected. No update on the presidential website either. I'm hoping for whatever executive action Trump is talking about having to do with elections. I hope it comes soon. I'm curious to see what it says. And I do have a couple stories we're going to touch on, maybe one story having to do with elections, especially in LA County. But Badlands Media Fan says, Patel Patriot, looks like you're dressed for the Gart cruise. Somebody almost, like, who was it? Somebody almost had me sold on a cruise this weekend. I think it was Ty and JC. They were talking about they're doing a trip to Hawaii in the future, and they're saying like the best way to do it is just excuse me, get a cruise boat and like go to all the different islands while you're there instead of having to fly around. And I didn't hate the idea, but I don't know. If Mr. Bright's in the chat, I'm not 100% opposed to a Gart cruise. I'm just like 95% opposed to the Gart cruise. Okay, I want to start things off, I think, talking about the Ukraine peace situation. I said going into the meeting with Putin that a lot of people were looking at this as like, okay, this is it. This is the peace deal. And maybe it still is. We still have to like get the other side of the equation to come forward and agree to the thing. The mainstream media is taking an interesting angle to this entire situation. First, CNN talks about the difference between a ceasefire and a peace deal and how they're at odds with each other. Putin and Trump want the peace deal. Ukraine just wants a ceasefire. And they go through this whole article talking about what the differences are. I'm just going to read the first section of it here. U.S. President Donald Trump has ditched his call for a ceasefire in Ukraine, backing instead Russian President Vladimir Putin's push for a permanent peace agreement. That has not stopped some European leaders from pushing for a temporary truce first, even though the U.S. president has seemingly decided one is not necessary. I agree with Trump here, obviously. The ceasefire thing is so stupid because if you have a ceasefire and somebody breaks it, I mean, the ceasefire doesn't really end the war, right? You have a ceasefire, somebody breaks it, okay, well, we're just back to war again. If you have a peace agreement and somebody breaks that, that's completely different. That's the war. That's the war starting again, a new war. And that's something I don't think Putin would do unless there's a false flag or something, but that's not him anyway. But they go through this whole thing explaining the differences. It's not that Kyiv and its allies don't want peace, but they understand that the kind of deal sought by Russia can't happen unless the most basic principle underpinning the global order, that a country cannot get what it wants by force, is thrown under the bus. And Kyiv's European allies are not willing to risk that, not least because they could well become the next target of Russian aggression. Speaking to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and several European leaders in the Oval Office on Monday, Trump adopted some of Moscow's talking points, questioning whether a ceasefire was necessary if a broader peace deal could be achieved. I might as well just finish this. But international law experts and analysts say that any deal that would force Ukraine to give up its land to stop the killing of its people by Russia would be completely illegal under the UN Charter, a key international agreement which most countries signed up to after the horrors of the Second World War. Isn't that kind of ridiculous? Because Putin wants the land that was basically taken from him back. The color revolutions that they pulled off in 2014, 2010, 2012, 2014. There's multiple of them. But anyway, while often thought of as essentially the same thing, there's a big difference between a peace deal and a ceasefire in the eyes of international law. During a ceasefire, warring parties agree to stop fighting with each side, keeping hold of the territory under its military control. But the understanding is that the pause is temporary, usually to provide a window to negotiate, deliver humanitarian help, or evacuate civilians. Kyiv and its European allies suggest that a ceasefire might be a precursor for a meeting between Zelensky and Putin, followed by a trilateral meeting between Trump and Zelensky and Putin. Now, the reason I read that story, especially that last line, is like they suggest a ceasefire might be the precursor for the meeting. This is the next article that CNN put forth. Why Putin is not ready to meet with Zelensky and may never be. Agreement at the White House Monday on the next step, a bilateral meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, seemed broadly unanimous. Then came the Russian response. The idea was discussed that it would be appropriate to study the opportunity of raising the level of representatives of the Russian and Ukrainian sides, said Kremlin aide Yuri Yushakov. No mention of either leader by name or any indication of the representatives could be raised to that level. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov took a more conciliatory tone in this. Oh my gosh, I can't read today. This is gonna be a rough episode if I can't read. In a stated TV interview later Tuesday, we do not refuse any forms of work, neither bilateral nor trilateral, he insisted, but any contacts involving top officials must be prepared with the utmost care. This part's based as hell. And this is what we've been kind of talking about at Badlands for a little while now. This is a war that Putin started by unilaterally recognizing a chunk of Ukrainian land, the self-styled Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics, whatever, as independent. He has argued Ukraine is an inalienable part of Russia's own history, culture, and spiritual space, and its separation from Russia is a historical mistake. So if this meeting happens, as somebody in Russia said, I'm not going to try to read that name, Putin will have to accept the failure of sitting down with a president he considers a joke from a country that doesn't exist. So this is a Russia spokesperson, the director of the Chatham House's Russian Eurasia programs. Maybe that's not a Russian person. I don't know what that role is. I have to look that up. But anyway, this is how they're saying what Putin is going to do, right? He says him sitting down would be him acknowledging that these people are legitimate. It would also, she argued, be a huge reversal in tone that would be tough to explain to the Russian people. Putin so much brainwashed Russians on state television that Zelensky is a Nazi, that Ukraine's a puppet state of the West, that Zelensky's illegitimate. Why is he suddenly talking to him? The Kremlin not only routinely questions the legitimacy of the Ukrainian leader, fixating on the postponement of elections in Ukraine, illegal under martial law, but its latest peace memorandum requires Ukraine to hold elections before any final peace treaty is signed. Putin and other Russian officials rarely refer to Zelensky by name, instead preferring the scathing moniker of the Kyiv regime. It's not that scathing. And don't forget, it was Zelensky who traveled to Turkey for the first direct talks between the two sides in mid-May, only for Putin to send a delegation headed by a writer of historical textbooks. So I think this is great, because this is what I think is going to happen. I've been saying this is going to happen for a while. And they signaled this back in like February or March, when the first round of like, hey, let's all be friends and come to peace. And then Zelensky threw a fit, and both Putin and Trump were like, well, we'll just pause, hold elections, get you out of there. We don't need you to be the one to sign the peace deal. You're going to agree to the peace that we want. And we're kind of back to that time. Like, that's the situation again. And I just find it interesting. And I still think it'd be the most hilarious thing ever if they held an election in Ukraine. It would be probably one of the most looked at elections like worldwide, potentially ever. Maybe United States, whatever. But imagine if there was like exposed election fraud in Ukraine, and that exposes election fraud around the world. That would be great. What am I missing in the chat? Sarge Sparky says, Ash, you had a show on Oregon recently. Makes me think. Did you see AG Bondi list of states? I didn't see that either. If you go on cruises, are you guys discussing the cruises again? I shouldn't have brought it up. It's my bad. My bad, guys. New case. I want to see Gart and Cody, Wyoming, too, at the East Gate into Yellowstone and the largest Western history museum in the Wild West, Buffalo Bill Coldy's Museum of the West. Interesting. Oh, man. Babbage 3. I could have swore Babbage was there. On basis, you said that I was at Deadwood and you met me. This is a Rumble rant, by the way, for $5. I attended virtually and we have never met. How sleep deprived were you, or is there an imposter? I was very sleep deprived. That's for sure. I could have swore I met a Babbage there, though. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else in the chat and I just like confused you with her. It's my bad. E.H. Kyle says, John, there were color revolutions in 2004 and 2014. Those are the years I was looking for. I knew I had one of them right. JK Nerdy, I never get to Herold Live. Should be asleep for night shift. Yes, you should, but you should also finish watching the show. Hit that thumbs up. Yeah, guys, we are still looking for 2 locations for next year's Garts. We have Florida coming up here. I think tickets are going to go on sale here this week. And then next year we have Deadwood in June-ish, and we're going to go back to Vegas again sometime in the fall, because those are just 2 good venues, right? But I don't know about the other 2 times. Boom Diggity, that's who I met. That's right. My bad. I confused Boom Diggity with Babbage. It'll never happen again. Apologies. Anyway, back to the story. So I'm very curious to see if this meeting actually happens, because it's like the next step, right? We've got to have all of them together. Zelensky, Putin, Trump, maybe the European leaders. I don't know. Russia, they're saying, is kind of appearing to be backpedaling a little bit. But maybe there's a condition that needs to be met before they're actually willing to meet. Maybe that condition is the elections in Ukraine, which get rid of Zelensky in the first place. And everybody writes in Putin, and Putin wins the Ukrainian elections. Then all hell breaks loose. That'd be hilarious. One more quick story from the more geopolitical standpoint is this one from Politico. Trump, Netanyahu's a war hero, and I am too. The U.S. president has never fought in an actual conflict. They just had to be sure to put that out there. U.S. President Donald Trump called himself a war hero on Tuesday for approving airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. Calling into conservative host Mark Levin's radio show, Trump said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was a war hero because we worked together. He's a war hero. I guess I am too, Trump said. Nobody cares, but I am too. I mean, I sent those planes. The president appeared to be referencing an attack he ordered on Iranian subterranean nuclear facilities in June in a bid to obliterate Tehran's nuclear program. Alpha's in the chat too. What the heck is going on? Guys, got to be ready for an onslaught of $2 mostly inappropriate rants. Or just he's naming all the cities he knows. Nashville, Seattle. What other cities do you know, Alpha? Keep them coming. Gettysburg would be cool. The thing you guys got to keep in mind, though, is like, it's one thing to just say an awesome location. There's an entirely different thing to find like a venue that we can afford where we don't have to raise prices through the roof. We try to break even on the venues and like getting us speakers and everything there. So if you guys know a location, that's great, but you also got to find a venue for us to get in at. Trump has always said he's a wartime president. That is true. Levin, not one person on Badlands can pronounce his name. I don't think anybody on Badlands wants to, First Amendment, Mike, but I'm not a fan of Mark Levin. Yeah, convenient airport too. Like Deadwood's great, but that's the one drawback is it's a little ways from the airport. It's a small town. They don't have a bunch of Ubers flying around. Like the coordination of getting people to and from the venue was not ideal. But the venue, Deadwood's just amazing. Skeptical, the Alpha Warrior show, 15K last night in your show, top of Rumble. Yeah, they got featured last night. That was really cool. That was really cool. I haven't, the first episode of DEFCON 0, I watched like 30 minutes of it. It was great. I haven't had time to watch any since, really. But people are loving that show. Did you put soft disclosure on your mic? Your voice is so smooth. I will say softdisclosure.com will make you sound sexy and sultry when you do podcasts and stuff. Rise of Tire feels like getting back to normal on our first day home now that we're watching Daily Herold. The first day back is like always the worst. The first day leaving Guard, like when everybody is starting to leave and go home, it's just so depressing. So it's such a good weekend. Anyway, okay, let me keep going here. I'm going to pull this story up just briefly because there's a story after this I want to discuss, which is something we've talked about quite a bit. Trump's push for ending mail-in ballots and voting machines means process likely to fall on states. President Trump on Monday announced via Truth that he would lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots and voting machines due to fraud and corruption, but the matter will likely take place at the state level. I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots and also, while we're at it, highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, which cost 10 times. I mean, you guys all read the post. Experts interviewed by Newsweek, whatever that means, experts told the news outlets that Trump's executive order won't change federal elections, and Congress is not able to change the way states run their elections. Republicans have in the past been critical of voting machines and mail-in voting, as during the 2022 midterm, states like Arizona had issues with machines not working. U.S. Agency for Global Media senior advisor and former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Carrie Lake in 2022 alleged that thousands of Republican, I'm going to skip through all this stuff. This stuff falling to the states is the issue that I see and have been seeing like for a long time that they're going to run into, because how do you get these blue states, which have been the beneficiaries of election fraud, how are you going to get them to fix their system and essentially change the beneficiaries of the election system? It's not going to happen. You're not going to get any of these blue states. So you're going to get election integrity in red states. That's great. They're already the ones that, I mean, none of them are fixed, but what about the blue states? This is what I'm most curious to see with that executive order that Trump is eventually going to put out here. He says, or at least he said he's leading the push. I'm assuming it's via executive action. I don't know what else he's going to do, but I want to know how it's going to address the states being the ones responsible for fixing elections when you have a bunch of douchebags in all the key positions in the blue states that are never going to do anything that could actually fix elections. It's not going to happen. So I don't know. I'm just curious. I understand how important fixing our elections is. I know it needs to happen. It'd be great to happen before the midterms. It has to happen before Trump walks away, if he does. So I don't know how that looks. You know, Ash, we have an entire show called Why We Vote, where Ash and CanCon go through this stuff, all the issues, and I don't know what the resolution looks like. I don't know if any of us do. John places the lotion into the basket. Actually, one of the nights at Gart, when we were going to bed at like 3 a.m, that show was on, Silence of the Lambs. It was super funny. Red Pill 78 Wife, I love the mint deodorant. I love the mint deodorant too. Softdisclosure.com. We priced it as reasonably as we could, and all profit goes to Badlands hosts. So support Badlands and its sponsors. Badlands owned lotion company. Ash says something pretty controversial here. I'm afraid to even read it, but I'll do it. Yeah, elections are fake. It's very controversial, Ash. How dare you, you election denier. WinRed is filthy too. Yep. Act Blue, all of them. Veruman says, can the federal government assign some kind of oversight with actual presence in the states? I don't know. That's an interesting idea. Like, can he send in the National Guard to all the election sites and make sure there's no shenanigans? I don't know. Anarchy says blockchain voting, public ledger. Good to see Anarchy. He's the one who made the outro to this video or the show. I know Ash does not agree with that sentiment. If Trump would send in the National Guard to like all the states to help monitor elections, what would that fix the machines? I don't think so. You'd have to do something there too. I don't know. Bravis says, I think it's figured out already. I do agree, like broadly, that Trump, whatever solution Trump has to fix our elections, he already has it. Like he knows what it is. We just haven't seen it yet. And that's what I'm very curious about. Rise of Tire says, what's up, fam? John, just looking through these old time photos we did, dying, laughing at the Easter egg you left in there. LMAO. Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about. Does it have to do with Burning Bright? Yeah, we'll get those pictures up. I mean, some people have already posted them, but we'll get those up as we go. Ash 1776 says, I think there is a role for blockchain in a future system, but it cannot be fit into the current system. First debate G and I ever had. Yeah, that was some debate. Okay, this is the story I wanted to touch on and why I read that story first. It says, DOJ says voting machine maker funneled LA County money into slush funds used to pay bribes. And there's another one actually from Los Angeles Times. Money for LA County voting machines ended up in bribery slush fund, feds allege. And there's an entire court filing. I haven't actually read through it all yet. I'm only on page like 10 to 27, and I don't know if I'm going to read through the rest, but this is the relevant part where they're getting that headline from. So we'll just read this. This is section 3. Slush funds from the 2020 elections contract with Los Angeles County. In or around 2019, defendant Vasquez transferred additional funds to the RU slush fund from a contract between Company One, Smartmatic, I believe, and Los Angeles County for the former to provide voting machines for the 2020 elections. The government intends to introduce evidence of this slush fund scheme involving non-Filipino election contracts as being inextricably intertwined with the charged conduct, or in the alternative, as extrinsic evidence pursuant to FRE 404B against defendant Vasquez. This evidence includes financial and business records, witness testimony, as well as email and text communications. These slush funds were similarly maintained by vendor A, and payments were made in the same manner as the extra fee and RU created from the 2016 Philippine election contracts. Specifically, defendant Vasquez directed vendor A to make payments from the slush funds through shell company bank accounts, which vendor A controlled. Pursuant to defendant Vasquez's directions, vendor A made payments to the entities in the amounts designated by defendant Vasquez. Additionally, defendant Vasquez directed vendor A to make payments to bank accounts in the Southern District of Florida that he and Company One employee controlled. Payments were similarly disguised using fraudulent contracts, loan agreements, and invoices. And in this article, I think there's a couple spots where they talk about Dean Logan and his relationship with some Smartmatic executives. They don't actually, I think, mention the one that I talked about in my series. If you guys remember, I had an article. Where is it at? Yeah, it was just a standalone article exposing LA elections. And there's a guy in here that I talk about from Smartmatic. Where's it at? I can't remember his name, so I got to find him. Here, Paul DeGregorio. He's a board of directors at Smartmatic. He was good buddies with Dean Logan. They went on trips together. His good friend. All these things. I'm going to see if this guy's in the lawsuit here. De Gregorio. Let me go back to this. Yeah, he's not in here. So he's not mentioned. They mentioned a relationship with somebody else in this lawsuit. So, but I think this is great exposure. LA County is one of the worst hubs of election fraud, and that's saying something considering how many terrible hubs of election fraud there are in this country. This article was a fun dig for me. It took me a long time to write. This article took me almost longer than some of my devolution articles. And I think this stuff is relevant and it's coming back around. And that's what's really cool and important here. So yeah, this story coming out now, this court filing coming out now, at the same time that Trump makes a post about, hey, we're going to fix our elections. This, I don't know. This is all coming together. The streams are crossing. It seems. E.H. Kyle says, not until the voter rolls are purged, cleaned up, and proof of ID is a must in all states. I would agree with that. A well-armed Buddhist for $10 says, you think elections are fake? Wait till you find out nothing is real. That's a great rant. No, what we haven't done, which we said we were going to do at one of these GARTs, is have like a discussion about simulation theory, which I still think is fascinating, even though I don't believe it. I think those discussions are interesting. We can talk about that on maybe OnlyLens or something. Does anybody know roughly how many people show up to a GART? 300, 400? Depends on the GART, depends on the venue. Sometimes we get a smaller venue. I think the smallest venue we've gotten is 200, like 210. This last one in Deadwood was somewhere between 250 and 260. I think the biggest one we had with the venue we had was maybe Myrtle Beach, which I think we had over 300, 350. I think Cocoa Beach, Florida is gonna, last time we were down there, we had about 250, 260. But I think the venue could accommodate bigger, like up to 320 or 350. Again, I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if we sell out Cocoa Beach and fill that place up. So it really just depends on the venue. Check out the view from this meeting room. Scroll down. Okay, Colorado Springs. I don't know. Are they going to let a bunch of communists like us in there? I mean, that's really cool. This reminds me of the Irvine place that we went to, the windows. But yeah, Miss Bright's the one who looks and books this place, the place we go to. And it really comes down to expense. Because would you guys rather like go to a really cool place, but it be super expensive? Like what do we do? Or do we keep the prices reasonable as we can? And not go to like the super awesome view at the Great Wolf Lodge in Colorado Springs. So I don't know. It's decisions we have to deal with. Anyway, yeah, election stuff. I feel like I'm just wasting more time shooting the shit today than I normally would. We got this story from Just the News. Gabbard revokes security clearances for 37 former and current intelligence officials over Russiagate. It's a lot of people. 37 officials, including a former top aide to former President Barack Obama, Obama's DNI James Clapper. DNI Gabbard announced on Tuesday that she directed her office to revoke security clearances. Let me keep going down a little bit further. I thought this had the names in here. Nope. Let's start here. Gabbard claimed that 37 officials, including a former top aide to former President Barack Obama's DNI James Clapper, abused public trust with their participation in the scandal. Being entrusted with a security clearance is a privilege, not a right, Gabbard said in a post on X. Those in the intelligence community who betrayed their oath to the Constitution and put their own interests ahead of the interests of the American people have broken the sacred trust they promised to uphold In doing so, they undermine our national security, the safety and security of the American people, and the foundational principles of our democratic republic. Gabbard said her order comes at the request of President Donald Trump and targets people who abused public trust by allegedly politicizing and manipulating the intelligence, leaking classified intelligence, and violating the department's standards. Our intelligence community must be committed to upholding the values and principles enshrined in the U.S. Constitution and maintain a laser-like focus on our mission of ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. The fullest of people impacted can be viewed here. That's what I was looking for. Okay. And I saw this before. I didn't see anybody that like truly stood out, but they're saying they're doing this because of the Russiagate stuff, right? I wonder like what role these people played in the Russiagate scandal. Because if you go back to the article, she directed her office because of the Russiagate scandal. So now they have all of these people that are involved. I'll have to do a dig and see what some of these people were, like what role they were in during the entire thing. And the fact that some of them are still there is crazy. And that any of them have security clearances. You know, a lot of people leave government service, if you can even call it that, the intelligence community, and they'll go on and work at like a think tank or whatever, but they'll maintain their security clearance. Why do we allow that? Like, why do people who no longer work in government get to keep their security clearance unless you're like the president? What need do they have to keep their security clearance? Shouldn't we just remove that the second you leave office? If you're no longer working for the government on behalf of the American people, why do you need a security clearance to access classified information that is supposedly owned by the American people? If you're working for a think tank, you shouldn't have access to that shit. And think of how much money they get. They get so much money to keep their security clearance. And that's probably the only reason they get hired. They keep their security clearance. They can help maneuver things and benefit things, use their connections and access to intelligence to win contracts. It's gross. We should stop it, but also we should just make all the information public, and then we'd all have the same access to classified information if there was no such thing, but that's never going to happen. Ash says it's hugely valuable in consulting post-government service, which is a problem on all levels. Agree it should go. Boom. $500 an hour minimum? Holy. I mean, I'd get why if I had a kind of job like that, where all I needed was my old security clearance to do it, and consult for $500 an hour. That's insane. Jen Lawrence says retired general of Space Force got $3 million to sit on boards after retirement. Chickasaw Girl, yes, the moment they no longer work for the government, their access is revoked. That's the way it should be. That's the way I think it should be. Anyway, yeah, it's a racket. I'm glad this is done. It's something that should be addressed. I wonder if Trump will ever get to that point where he addresses that. All right, I got a post from The Storm Has Arrived, a video, which I'm going to play here. Ed Martin confirms that he has been working with Tulsi Gabbard and promises that people involved in the grand conspiracy will be held accountable. Let's play this video.
Are you confident?
I'm going to speed it up slightly just because it's so long. I'm going to speed it up to 125. If it's hard to understand, then I'll slow it back down. But
with what you're able to get access to and assess, that you're going to be able to very thoroughly make your prosecutorial judgments.
Well, look, I've been involved with our mutual friend Tulsi Gabbard at DNI, and she has gone, and I hope people have tracked what I call the...
Okay, I'll probably just slow it down there, man.
Birthday of the Russia hoax, which was revealed by Tulsi. It actually was born on Friday, December 9th, 2016, and it was done by the Obama White House in a special meeting, aided by the Washington Post. This is in the record. This is indisputable. This is not like me and you debating. And what we go forward from there, and you say that was the Russia hoax that was used to almost cripple the Trump administration by design. Then you go forward to 2020, and you say, what happened on January 6th and afterwards? And to your point, Matt, What they did with the select committee was they weaponized the power of Congress. They were aided by the media, and they were often aided by the Article 3 courts and the prosecutors. And they took the hoax and they pounded out a message. And frankly, they brainwashed 40% of the country, 50% of the country. There's still people are still sick with it because they were lied. So what is our goal? One is to hold people that do things that are destructive and against the law accountable. I want to do that. We're going to do that. I promise you. But we're also trying to get to the truth. And so when you have a Tulsi Gabbard who can say, here was some of the truth, I can tell you, we've been going through the records, emails of this Department of Justice from the Biden era, and we're seeing who was doing what. I'll give you a quick example. They put everybody on January 6th that was arrested, minus maybe 100, onto the terrorism watch list. And when you said, wait a second, you're on the terrorism watch list, why? You're supposed to be a terrorist or a member of a terrorist group or another criteria. The other criteria was, we just wanted to put you on. And when you were pardoned by Donald Trump, all 1,500 plus went off the terrorism watch list. Well, that just proves it wasn't a terrorism watch list. It's a list to punish you when you go to the airport. And that's what they did. We have numbers that the IRS were auditing J6 targets in a higher percentage than other groups. This is all the use of government against the people. And I'll just finish with this, Matt. You've seen this, you know this, you've been aware of it, but we've never seen what happened in the Biden administration, the use of government against the American people. We've never seen it in our history. And so am I confident we're going to get to the bottom of it? Yes, because I got to get up in the morning early and work hard all day. But it is a fight, and it is a fight because people have deleted, they disappeared, they moved on, they tried to say, don't talk about it, get on with it. President Trump has said, we're going to get to the bottom of it. I'm also involved in the 2020 election and the 2016 election to get to the bottom of what happened. We're going to have grand juries. We're going to pull people in. And the one thing I'll say over and over again, Matt, it won't surprise you, it's the same people that were at the Russia hoax birthday party. It's the same people overlapping over and over again. And what Rudy Giuliani said once, and he knows better than anybody in our American history, when you put these people together and they're always working together, that's called an enterprise. That's called a criminal enterprise. And you're in territory where everybody's held accountable for the whole of it. And that's what we're seeing.
Remember, he was wasn't he appointed to be the U.S. attorney, or what is it, the district attorney, U.S. attorney for D.C., the District of Columbia, and he got stonewalled. He got tanked by, gosh, who was it? Now my brain isn't working. But then he gets put into this, this kind of unique created role just for him. He confirms he's still working with Tulsi Gabbard, and we're going to get to the bottom of this entire thing. Ed Martin saying that is not a small thing. He says it's all the same people that have been working together. We're going to have grand juries. We're going to pull people in. I think some of that stuff is already being done. I think we've kind of had confirmation of that. How long it's going to take, I don't know. But yeah, Ash pointed out in the chat that Ed Martin actually follows a lot of people on Badlands. Now, he does follow like 18,000 people or something, which is a lot. But yeah, he follows me. He follows at least half the crew. It's pretty great. It's the same people that did 9/11. Did he actually say that? Did I miss that last part? Did he say 9/11? Or am I know there's a delay in the chat. But yeah, speaking of 9/11, guys, Codex 9/11, the documentary by Brad, it's freaking amazing. It's premiering this Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're also actually, I don't know how many places we're going to do this at, but I know Chris, the AV guy from the conferences, he's looking at a venue in near where he lives, like a theater. He's going to rent out and do a premiere on 9/11 for it as well, like an in-person thing. We're looking at one in Fort Lauderdale as well. So, Ash says, no, but it is like it is all connected. Yeah. Okay. I thought he said that, and I was like, that's even more dastardly. But yes, I know we all believe that. Bravest was amazing, John, as a FDNY member at the time. That's crazy. Well, thank you for saying that. Fit right into everything I studied on Hersey buildings. Yeah, can't wait for you guys to see this film and share it with your friends. It's such an eye-opener. It's amazing. White House aims to fast-track key Federal Reserve pick. Administration officials want Stephen Moran in place for a mid-September Fed meeting. This is the guy who wrote the Mar-a-Lago Accords. We've talked about him on the Power Hours and on this show a few times. The Steve Moran, he's an interesting guy. Him being like trying to be fast-tracked into the Fed board is notable. The White House is working over the August recess to build momentum for a key Federal Reserve nominee the administration wants in place next month. Stephen Moran, whom President Trump tapped to temporarily serve on the Federal Reserve Board, has been meeting with members of the Senate Banking Committee, which will need to greenlight his nomination before the full Senate can vote on confirmation. Moran met Tuesday with all these people, whatever. The White House has been aggressively pushing Dr. Moran's nomination to the Federal Reserve Board, setting the stage for his quick confirmation when the Senate returns in September, said a White House official on Tuesday. With the president's strong backing, there's clear momentum to get this done. Underscoring how big of a priority it has become for the Trump administration to seat Moran quickly, Banks said in a statement he returned to Washington Tuesday to meet with him instead of waiting until after the Senate's current weeks-long break. Now, on the heels of that, I also have a couple other stories. Just got to find them. Hold for processing. Where's that? Oh, not that one. Not that one. Oh, come on. Well, I can show this. This has to do with it's a true social post having to do with Powell. Could somebody please inform Jerome Powell that he is hurting the housing industry very badly? People can't get a mortgage because of him. There's no inflation, and every sign is pointing to a major rate cut. Too late is a disaster. That's one. I could have swore I had another story specifically having to do with this, but I guess not. But I think this is notable. I mean, you get him in there. Oh, you know what it was? It was. Oh shoot, where'd that story go? Did I lose it? Shoot, because somebody was calling for the resignation of somebody else on the Fed board. Oh, right here. Donald Trump demands Fed Governor Lisa Cook's resignation over mortgage fraud. President Donald Trump has demanded the immediate resignation of Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook amid allegations of mortgage fraud. Claims spearheaded by Trump ally Bill Pulte accused Cook of falsely designating two homes, one in Michigan and one in Atlanta, as her primary residences to secure lower interest rates and easier loan approvals. The Department of Justice is investigating heightening tensions over the Fed's independence and Trump's push for reforms. I still think that if you're going to get somebody for some sort of like corruption and something like this is kind of a lame one, the mortgage fraud thing. Like, what happens if you stay at two places the exact same amount of time throughout the year? Which one's your primary residence? What if they're both equally as primary? I'm not trying to defend her. I'm just like, this is an actual question. Playing a little bit of devil's advocate. Like, this is just that accusation is kind of a nothing burger. Ash 1776, Besant talked about the Fed chair stuff. It's in the brief this morning. Well, let me go check that out. Hold for process. By the way, guys, if you haven't yet, you can subscribe to the Badlands news brief, badlands.substack.com. It is free. You can do it as a way to support us, but it's a free way to get a whole bunch of the top news articles throughout the day. Let me find. Besson says interviews for incredible group of potential Fed chairs will start after Labor Day. Oh, Burning Break gave a take on it. I'm sure we'll talk about this in the Power tonight. Yeah, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I was hoping, and still kind of am hoping, for the shadow Fed chair, which I think if they start doing interviews that soon, that could kind of play out. So it's not notable. Oh, let's see what else here. Oh yeah, another story from Ed Martin. He urges New York Attorney General Letitia James to resign over mortgage probe. A lot of mortgage probes going around. A group of bipartisan lawmakers met with Syria's President al-Shara. It's not a huge story, but So I'll say it anyway. This one I think is a little more interesting. Air Force Chief of Staff General David Alvin to retire early under Trump administration pressure. Air Force Chief of Staff, he's retiring this fall. The Air Force said Monday that Alvin's retirement would take effect on or about November 1st, the full honor ceremony to follow. According to sources, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, told Alvin last week that the administration wanted to move in a different direction, asking him to retire, but allowing him to make the announcement himself. It was certainly not his choice, one person told the Washington Post. In a statement, he thanked President Trump and top Pentagon leaders despite the circumstances. Air Force officials publicly commended his service, though others within the Pentagon pointed to concerns over his handling of a potential security crisis involving China. Some expressed surprise that the forced retirement had not come sooner. That is interesting. I wonder if we know what that is. What security crisis involving China? If anybody knows, let me know in the chat. Wayan Mall in the chat says, potential Fed chairman will make a motion to eliminate the Fed and free Tina. We do need to free Tina, but I don't think the Fed chairman is the one to do that. Property taxes is a big deal in Michigan for primary residents. Yeah, but we should eliminate property taxes as well. Just trying to see if there's anything else I want to. How could a general be woke? There's lots of generals that are woke. You guys, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, let's keep going here. Great moment from Stephen Miller today. They went to, I think, Union Station. A bunch of protesters were there. It was him, Stephen Miller, Hegseth, and J.D. Vance. And this is what he had to say.
The nation's capital. And let's just also address another thing. All these demonstrators that you've seen out here in recent days, all of these elderly white hippies, they're not part of the city and never have been. And by the way, most of the citizens who live in Washington, D.C. are black. This is not a city that has had any safety for its black citizens for generations. And President Trump is the one who is fixing that with the support of the Metropolitan Police Department, the support of the National Guard, and our federal law enforcement officers. So we're going to ignore these stupid white hippies that all need to go home and take a nap because they're all over 90 years old. And we're going to get back to the business of protecting the American people and the citizens of Washington, D.C.
So good. He's so good. He's such a good orator. And the way he says, like, white hippies, he specifies the race. We're going to ignore these old white hippies. They need to go home and take a nap. Hilarious. I want to go home and take a nap. I am home. I want to go upstairs and take a nap. Anyway, we got this official statement regarding Bed Bath & Beyond. We will not open retail stores in California. This isn't about politics. It's about reality. Let me read the actual statement. Statement from Marcus Lemonis, executive chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond. We will not open or operate retail stores in California. This decision isn't about politics. It's about reality. California has created one of the most overregulated, expensive, and risky environments for businesses in America. It's a system that makes it harder to employ people, harder to keep doors open, and harder to deliver value to customers. The result? Higher taxes, higher fees, higher wages that many businesses simply cannot sustain, and endless regulations that strangle growth. Even when the state announces a budget surplus, it's built on the backs of ordinary citizens who are paying too much and businesses who are squeezed until they break. At Bed Bath & Beyond, our responsibility is to our customers and our shareholders. We will not participate in a system that undermines both. Instead, we are investing in a California strategy that works: 24 to 48-hour delivery, and in many cases, same-day service. Californians will continue to get the products they love through bedbathbeyond.com, but without the inflated costs created by an unsustainable model. We're taking a stand because it's time for common sense. Businesses deserve the chance to succeed. Employees deserve jobs that last, and customers deserve fair prices. California's system delivers the opposite. That's why Bed Bath & Beyond will serve California customers directly through bedbathandbeyond.com on our terms and with their best interests at heart. I love this, and I wish more businesses would do this. Badlands Media pulled out of California years ago. This is based, and until they fix elections in places like California and get rid of the corrupt Democratic leaders, and it's not just Democrats, the Uniparty, whatever, until they do that, I bet we see more of this happening. Like the fact that these guys did the first move here, and it wasn't even them. There's been other companies that have done this. Tesla, I know a lot of people that have moved from California to Texas because of what California's done. We need to see more very public exodus moves like this. I love it. John, are you going to air Codex 911 on both platforms, Rumble and YouTube? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And probably Twitter, I believe. Actually, I'm going to confirm that. I'm going to confirm that with Brad. I'm kind of leaving it up to Brad how he wants to do it for the most part. Like, he has full access to the Badlands platform, and if he wants to air it as far and wide as possible, he can. If he wants to limit it down to just Badlands, we support his decision. It's his film, and we just want to get it out there to as many people as possible. So I do believe we're going to put it on YouTube, but I feel like I may be speaking out of turn when I say that, because I don't know for sure, because I haven't spoken with Brad yet on it. But we will. I'll get back to you guys and let you know. But either way, I do agree that YouTube is like the platform for the normies. Like, more normies will watch on a YouTube than they would a Rumble. So we're gonna do our best. But yeah, I'm speaking with the Rumble folks tomorrow. We're gonna try to get like featured and everything if we can. We're gonna do our best. Boom, that sucks. Boomers are on YouTube. There are a lot of people on YouTube. YouTube still has a majority of the user base. I mean, we're streaming over there, but we don't get nearly as many viewers there as we do here. Which, by the way, hello, YouTubers. See if there's any comments. Oh yeah, there's a couple interesting ones here. Babbage says Powell is actually helping Trump, I think. Then somebody asked, Kathy's asked, how is that? And she makes a comment. The Hudson Bay Capital paper that John sometimes links argues that a strong dollar relative to other currencies reduces the effects of tariffs. So then the knock was tariffs will increase inflation, but they haven't so far. I think that's right. We have a Ricky Irish posts a breaking 911 status. Let's see what this is. The first post on the official White House TikTok account. I wonder if Badlands needs to try bringing back a TikTok account.
Every day.
But I'm going to save this, and this will be my outro here in a little bit. I just have a couple minutes left. Holy cow. Man, I had more stories I wanted to get through. DHS secretary says southern border wall will be painted black to deter illegal crossings. And I think it's because illegal immigrants are afraid of the color black. But they're saying it's because it will attract heat and make the walls hotter and harder to climb, whatever. 3 U.S. missile destroyers sail toward Venezuela to combat narco-terrorists. This is interesting. Me and Chris, and I think me and BB on recent Power Hours talked about the military getting more involved in going after the cartels, essentially. And this may be the first step in that. We got this from Trump on True Social. Any state that has built and relied on windmills and solar for power are seeing record-breaking increases in electricity and energy costs. The scam of the century. We will not approve wind or farmer destroying solar. The days of stupidity are over in the USA. Make America great again. Love it. Actually, on the way home from Deadwood to Bismarck, we drove through a lot of places that had a ton of windmills. The CEO of Target resigned. Brian Cornell is stepping down after the company has seen plummeting sales. Target got heavily involved in the pro-LGBTQ and woke culture, going all in on Pride merchandise. They're now retreating from DEI, the Trump era. We got a new guy in there. We'll see what he does. And that might be all I have for you guys in terms of news I wanted to play. Let me check if we got any boosts on the Badlands website. Oh, also, guys, we made we have a new website dedicated specifically for Codex 911. I'm gonna put in the chat here. Badlandsmedia.tv/Codex 911. It's its own page where you can watch the trailer, we'll have the film here, I'm sure, at the end, and you can, I believe, support it. Show your support at the bottom. All going directly to Brad. So check it out. It's all in one spot. Nice and easy to find. It's great. And the reviews as well. Really cool. Thank you, Cheryl, for putting that site together. Okay, let's see if we got any boosts out here on the website. For the Daily Herald, I haven't checked this in a while. Okay, I don't got any. So we'll do the rants instead, and then I'll get you guys out of here. Make sure you stick around Badlands Day, though. We got lots of stuff going on. Me and BB will be on the Power Hour tonight. Alpha Show says, Gart Cruz LFG. Babbage 3, I addressed this one earlier. I basically said that I was at Deadwood and you met me. I attended virtually, and we have never met. How sleep deprived were you, or is there an imposter? There probably was an imposter as well, but I was thinking of Boom Diggity, not Babbage 3. The Alpha Warrior Show says Nashville and Seattle. I'm so proud of him for learning all these cities and spelling them correctly when he posted them. That's just amazing, Alpha. You're doing great, buddy. The Bunny says anyone can lead or be part of local meetup groups. We have some awesome tools to help you connect with your local peeps. Reach out to Virginia fans of Badlands at gmail.com or badlandsmedia.tv/groups. Check it out, guys. It's one of the best part of doing the GARTs is like getting together with all the like-minded people and establishing these relationships. Like you really feel like you're with family when you're there, and you can do that on your own without the GARTs. We have local meetups all over the country. And if you don't have one in your area, you can start one and just start getting together, hanging out, and those things are growing, and it's just so cool to see. JK Nerdy says, Rise, we need an I'm an AGT. Love you, John. Yeah, that video yesterday was funny. Ash, thank you for sending that over. Joanne Coach, Waco, Texas certainly has atmosphere. Hotel 1928. Thank you, Joanne. I'm going to check that out. A well-armed Buddhist says, you think elections are fake, wait till you find out nothing is real. There you go. Well, thank you, everybody. Hit that thumbs up. Would appreciate it. We're going to watch this video as the outro, and then I'll play my regular outro video. I will see you tonight on the Power Hour at 10:30 Eastern. Then I'll be back again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern right here on the Daily Herald. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Every day, I wake up determined to deliver a better life for the people all across this nation. I am your voice. Every day.
Extra, read all about it.
3. Let's get started.
That's what she said.
Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me?